Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live Loading. In this episode, I'm gonna take a look at the creations of this kind of like a look at constraints. It's similar to Blender's own constraint. I think it's called Track To, and I was actually asking one of the Sverchok developer, maybe one day we're gonna have like all the constraints as a node inside Sverchoks, and that's actually maybe one day it's gonna happen. But for now. Um, it's either you are using the constraints provided by Blender or you kind of try to use some math to get what you want. That's all already possible. This is one example, and I will actually use this recipe and then try to build it from scratch by looking at this recipe. So every now and then you might get something that looks like node tree like this, and this is actually a really good example from Kosvor, one of Sverchok developer, and I want to take you through how to make this from scratch. Yeah, so let's get started. First of all, I always want to show you how, if you want to do it manually in Blender, for example, for constraints, in this case, look at constraint. Say you have this monkey head and you want it to look at this empty, you can use Track To Constraint, I believe, and you simply assign it to empty, and then the monkey head should look at the empty. If it's not facing the right way, you just need to switch it, just inverse it, and more or less you're gonna get the right results pretty quickly. Now if you wanna apply it to other objects, you can simply, I think, link it using Control L and just link the constraints. I believe if we have, we probably don't have constraint. Maybe you need to use Python to do that. Another way to do this is really just maybe just duplicate the objects, and then that way you have this track to happens. So that's one way you can do it. You can probably also use object in sensor of animation nodes if you want to do this kind of setup. But now I will use Sverchok to do this. Let's create another like few monkeys. Let's have just a 3 monkey head and then an empty. So let's save this as Sverchok look at constraint. Switch to compositing. And let's look at the recipe here. So we need object ID for the, probably this is for the empty, and then this is the object ID selector to get all the monkey head. And there's the object remote and the matrix normal, and this a little bit of math here with the matrix. It's relatively simple. I think we can do it pretty quickly. But first of all, there's this object remote control that it's kind of interesting. I never used this object remote control. This guy, I think, can control any objects in the scene. So let's say I'm picking one of the Susan head, and I will use the matrix in and play with the, okay, that's how it works. Very simple. You just plug in the vector into the location, and then maybe vector for the scaling. So this is pretty straightforward, but very powerful as well, because this guy can work for multiple objects, and you can also control the rotation. By default, rotation set to 001. That means you're gonna rotate it in the z-axis. So that's pretty cool, pretty simple. So we're gonna use object remote control, and we're gonna control a bunch of objects, which is our monkey head. So let's grab our monkey head, object selector, get our mesh Suzanne head. I think by default this guy gonna select all the mesh anyway, so we can just plug into the object remote control. If I'm not wrong, we can just We can already control the monkey head that way. Okay, cool. What's the next thing we need? Object ID. Get the empty, and then to get the matrix out, and then just do this subtraction between the two. Okay, so we need two object ID. Object ID out. So this one for the empty, and then this one is for the monkey head. And just subtract the two. Oh, I didn't know. I almost never use two matrix and the sub. I normally use just a vector. That's actually very interesting. And the output goes into the matrix normal, location, and normal. Okay. I think this is the node that doing the hard job. Track Y and Z, and then locations. The location looking at the monkey head. So this is the locations, and this is the normal. Metric goes into this guy, and apparently we get an error. Okay. Apparently we need a matrix out. Say like this is actually wrong. I need to use matrix out to get the locations. Same with this guy. Like so. Okay, now we are getting somewhere. Looks like we just need to. Okay. I think this guy is already working. Object remote control, monkey head. I'm gonna move the monkey head, and then the locations being controlled. Actually, we don't want the location being controlled. We want the monkey head to be free. I'll use a random vector, and Sverchok Blender just decided to crash. I'll restart again. Hopefully I saved it already. This happens time to time. Maybe it's my computer. But if you are in YouTube and you want to skip this part, you can just tap twice on the screen. They have this fast forward features recently. File save as. So good thing is I already saved it. Something about the vector location that I think I did it the wrong way. Okay, seems to work. So the aim constraint seems to work, so it's fine. I can control the monkey head position procedurally, but I kind of wanted to do it manually as well. So matrix out locations. I think I can simply plug this guy in like that. So now if I move the monkey head, it should look at the empty. So I can duplicate the monkey head as many times as possible as I want, just manually, and then all the monkey heads should still follow the locator. So there is no constraint. This is all done procedurally using nodes in Sverchok. Yeah, I think this can be very, very useful. The instancing probably will work as well. The only limitation at the moment is that we need to run the playback in order for this to work. But I guess that's okay. Cool. So this is how the setup looks like. Thanks to Kosvor for this example. Like I said, whenever you look at whenever you found recipe like this online or somewhere, this is very precious and very beneficial. You can really try to build the setup yourself from scratch, and then you will get to learn new things, and you can also try out other possibilities. Sometimes you might see the nodes that you never use, and then you test it out, and then hey, that's actually how it works, and then yeah. So this is the setup. It's very simple. This is for aim constraint, and the empty is the aim. You can change at any time. Let's say we have another empty, and then just switch this guy, and then all the monkey now looking at these objects. So that's it. That's for this live noding. Thanks again for tuning in. This is how you can set up aim constraints using Sverchok. If you have any feedback, suggestion, just let me know down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.